Good morning everybody, hope you're doing really well. So today I'm at another English heritage site and I'm at a place which historically is right on my street. We're talking about Flowerdown Barrows, disc barrows, and what an incredible piece of history. Anyway, I won't say too much, enjoy your history lesson, see you on the other side. Located in the beautiful Hampshire countryside lies an incredible relic of a Bronze Age past, that of Flowerdown Barrows. The site has 3 Bronze Age burial mounds, 2 bowl barrows and a well-preserved disc barrow which has been described as the finest in Hampshire. Situated in Littleton, the area has its origins firmly based in the Bronze Age, having evidence of early Neolithic farming noted in the surrounding countryside. The barrows date round to circa 1800 to 1500 BC and would have formed part of a much larger burial site overlooking the ridge and could be seen for miles. What makes this even more special is that it represents just 5% of barrows in the Hampshire county that remain intact, with 75% having been destroyed over time, mostly to farming. The disc barrow is 28 metres in diameter and the larger bowl barrow 20 metres in diameter, and the smaller bowl barrow only being 8 metres in diameter, which is very hard to see having been less than a foot in height. Sadly, it was in the 19th century when the antiquarians digging on the site had left no record of their excavations, and so any history of its early past has sadly been lost. So, now run by English Heritage and a scheduled ancient monument, it is well worth a visit should you be in the area. Welcome back. So this is fascinating really, because obviously you've got disc barrow and then you've got a couple of bowl barrows, and they're all sort of situated in this area. You can see in front of us this beautiful sort of bowl in front of us. It's amazing really, it's beautiful. It's so nice actually when you come here. I'm going to walk down because they've cut the grass, and in most images that you see the grass is really high, so it gives you an unfair sort of perspective of where the dimensions are, etc. But look at this. I mean, as Bronze Age sites go, this is absolutely fascinating because it sort of really highlights the whole purpose of really why they were important in the first place. The fact that you've got these barrow sites, these Bronze Age cemeteries, if we want to politely put them, and it's hard to tell, but we're pretty much overlooking quite a huge significant swathe of countryside. Got Winchester, which isn't that far away. In fact, actually, if I put you in perspective, so let's just say that's the entrance. Winchester's pretty much that distance there, and we're on quite a prominent hill bit here, and you can imagine these at one point actually being really prominent on the landscape. It's so crazy to sort of see how well over time all these houses have come into their own, and people's populations now looking on this site, and you wonder if our ancestors, when looking back on a place like this, wonder what they would have made of it. But to be fair, coming here now, I'm amazed at the condition of how well this is. I was very sceptical coming here, to be honest, because of my knowledge of barrow sites, Bronze Age sites. I do sometimes worry about the condition of them, but you know, wow, this really is spectacular. I'm just so grateful they cut the grass. That sounds really stupid, but if they didn't, it's really hard to gauge this. Oh, I love it. I really love this. It's in a gorgeous part of Hampshire as well, and it's a lovely little drive to get down here as well. They were sort of saying was that obviously it's one of the finest preserved in Hampshire, and I just love the name really. Flowerdown's beautiful, isn't it? because obviously it's springtime as well, the tulips are coming out as well. So nature's starting to come out, the birds are singing. Look at this. It's always going to be, you know, I've said this before, unless you have a drone, which obviously they wouldn't allow in a built up area like this, unless you had one, it's really hard to gauge how huge this site actually is, how huge this barrow site is, I'll sort of say, because you're here and you sort of think to yourself, okay, that looks kind of interesting, but it's actually, if you were looking at it from above, you'd probably get a better perspective of it. I just want to walk over now, and then we're going to head back there, because I'm always quite a big believer, you know, I'm only going to be here, this might be my one and only chance I ever get to do this, so I want to try and make it as good as possible. Pretty sure at one point there was also an older information board here, and I think that was sort of disappeared over time. Obviously we're right by the road. This is a sarsen stone. Oh, good old sarsen stones. This is found in Dean Down Drove. Cool, that's a mouthful. Littleton, on Mr. J. Stratton's farm in 1906. Moved to this site from the Hampshire County Museum, Chilcombe, in 1984. We love our sarsen stones. Beautiful colour to this one. It's got that sandy colour to it rather than a normal green alkali, but it's so exposed here as well. And as we always know with sarsen stones, what you're seeing, pretty much like icebergs in a strange way, is that actually what you're seeing here actually is probably about just as much of it down in the ground as well. This is our bowl barrow, and I think that's fairly straightforward for most of you. You can see our typical bowl. If you want to get a perspective, the reason why they're called bowls is actually because if you think about it, they look like upturned bowls. If you were to sort of flip one up from its back, that's what it'd look like. And then we've got our disc barrow. Said one of the best preserved, or is the best preserved in Hampshire, I think was the tagline. And then there's rumoured that I think that they were referring to the idea that this was meant to be a smaller barrow here. There's a slight mound just there as well. I think that's what they're referring to. Again, like they said in the thing, it's very difficult to imagine. But as you probably, if you're new to the channel, hi, thank you so much for watching. But I just want to sort of say, this is obviously my specialty in history. It's something I'm very passionate about, something that I really believe in, because it encompasses my spiritual side as well. Bowl barrows, Bronze Age barrows, megalithic sites. It really is my sort of start of a Thames. Okay, so obviously we were talking about the idea of cremations, talking about the idea that obviously these were extremely important sites, and they really were generational as well. I find it fascinating when I'm here. You do get that sort of spiritual yearning. I mean, one of the main reasons why I really like these types of sites is because I think actually, whatever your sort of belief system is, really these were some of the very earliest belief systems that we had. The fact that we would create these mounds, that we would put these cremation urns, not necessarily all the time. I mean, like I said, there are variations to a lot of these, but I find it fascinating. I think it brings us back to our early humanity. It gives us still a lot of answers, but also gives us some questions at the same time, which is what I love. The fact of we can always speculate through most of this, through what we've sort of dug up and what we've sort of seen in previous records, but really the fact of the matter is that places like this are still always going to retain that sort of element of mystery, and for that is what I love. And for some strange reason, I am I'm exceedingly drawn to them. I find them really fascinating. I think that they just bring us back to that sort of primal self, and it's just something about them. And what I love about this is that you can see the bulb barrow there, and then it underlays the disc barrow, and the fact that there's two different types here. I mean, that's also what makes this interesting. Again, not uncommon in certain areas. Obviously, we know that Wiltshire, for example, is probably our sort of pinnacle of our barrow sites, really. But we're not too far away. I mean, we're in Hampshire, but we're actually not too far away from Wiltshire at all, really. So again, you know, all these ancestors who are travelling around, commuting to sort of different places, travellers, trading their wares, trading their goods, and then their resting places somewhere like this or similar, like I said, with the sarsen stones. See the fact they would have had to have transported those sarsen stones no matter what. Again, not obviously on disc barrows, for example. These are literally what they would have looked like predominantly. But fascinating piece of history. Really fascinating. Like I said, just as many questions as just as many answers with a place like this, and for that I love it. Oh, love with this place. So glad I came here. Well, even though it was a very small video, hopefully it gave you a flavour of this place. Hopefully it gave you something to think about when you see these barrow sites, that even though they might just be insignificant grass mounds in certain cases, they really do hold a lot of mystery and a lot of wonder for a lot of people. And at one point, especially in the Bronze Age, these would have been hugely significant for community and family, to potentially cremate their loved ones, but also to show respect to nature and the law and the love that went around with places like this, which unfortunately, as we know, through time has slowly been lost. And I do think to myself, imagine if we had one of our Bronze Age ancestors now. I'm sure we could have learnt a lot from them, to do with agriculture, to do with lots of different ways of seeing the world in a different view, and that's pretty much why their belief systems, their culture is very close to my heart, and I find it absolutely fascinating. So as we look into the central area of the disc barrow, I just want to say thank you so much for coming along with me. Really hope you had a nice time, enjoying the weather that held out for us. In the immortal words of Phoenix History, take care, love to all of you out there, because history matters, and I'll see you all very soon. Kapow.